High school in the 80s. Survival of the fittest. You think high school is tough now, with your safe spaces and your allergy lists? Let me tell you, high school in the 80s was not a safe space. It was the Thunderdome. And only the strong, the feathered-haired, and the quick-witted survived. I'm here to give you the survivor's guide. These were the unwritten rules for making it out of a 1980s high school in one piece. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a field manual for a war zone where the weapons were sarcasm and industrial-strength hairspray. So, grab your Walkman, zip up your parachute pants, and let's get into the top 10 survival rules for an 80s high school. Rule number 10. Master the social food chain. Forget blended friend groups. In the 80s, you were pretty much sorted into your clique on day one, and that was your tribe for the next 4 years. You have the jocks, the preps, the nerds, the burnouts, and the artsy kids who wore all black and listened to The Cure. And cross-pollination between groups, it just didn't really happen. A jock wasn't going to wander over to the nerd table to discuss the latest episode of Doctor Who. Your clique was your shield. They were the people who'd save you a seat on the bus, let you sit with them at lunch, and warn you if a teacher was in a particularly foul mood. Choosing your friends wasn't casual. It was a strategic alliance you needed to survive. Rule number 9. Navigate the treacherous hallways. The 5 minutes between classes wasn't a social hour. It was a frantic, high-stakes migration. The hallways operated on a simple principle. Move or be moved. You did not stop in the middle of the hall to chat with your friends, forming a human wall. That was a rookie mistake that could get you shoved, checked, or at the very least earn you a sarcastic, "nice parking job" from a senior. You had to be aware of your surroundings at all times, keeping an eye out for roaming bullies, assistant principals on patrol, and the constant, socially devastating threat of getting pantsed on your way to third period. Some schools even had bizarre rules like one-way staircases where going up the down staircase was a high crime. You learned to walk fast, keep your head on a swivel, and treat every hallway like a freeway during rush hour. Rule number 8. Weaponize your fashion and gear. Your daily supplies weren't just for school, they were your arsenal. That can of Aqua Net wasn't just for cementing your bangs into a gravity-defying sculpture. It was basically a personal flamethrower waiting to happen. Your Trapper Keeper, with its Velcro seal that ripped open with the sound of 1,000 demons, wasn't just for holding homework. It was a surprisingly effective shield against flying spitballs. Making a mixtape was its own language, a carefully curated declaration of love, friendship, or even passive aggression. Your Walkman was a personal force field, creating a bubble of Prince or Madonna that made you immune to the chaos of the school bus. Even jelly bracelets were rumored to have some complex, unspoken code that nobody really understood, but everyone pretended to. Your gear wasn't just stuff, it was your identity and your armor. Rule number 7. Survive the gauntlet of gym class. Let's be clear. PE in the 80s was not about fitness. It was about weeding out the weak. It was evolution in action. Nature's way of ensuring that only the strong survived. Dodgeball was the main event, a brutal spectacle that had nothing to do with the soft foam balls you see today. We played with 1, maybe 2 red rubber playground balls inflated to the density of a bowling ball and textured to leave a perfect circular welt on your skin for a week. Get hit in the face? Shake it off. Crying? You just made yourself the main target for the rest of the game. Team selection was an exercise in public humiliation. The 2 most athletic kids would pick their friends first, leaving the rest of us lined up like sacrificial lambs, praying not to be the last one chosen. And don't forget the climbing ropes, where you were expected to shimmy 15 feet into the air with nothing but the fear of rope burn and a thin mat below to supposedly break your fall. Gym class wasn't exercise. It was natural selection in action. Rule number 6. Understand the unwritten rules of the cafeteria. The lunchroom was the social arena where the hierarchy of the hallways was on full display. Nutrition was an afterthought. The menu was basically square pizza, mystery meat burgers, and tater tots, all washed down with a Coke from a vending machine. The only green thing in sight was the sad piece of lettuce on your burger. But the most important rules were social. You did not, under any circumstances, touch another person's food. That was a capital offense. You didn't cut the line, and you didn't sit at a table that wasn't for your clique. The cafeteria was a microcosm of high school itself, loud, chaotic, and fueled by questionable food and rigid social structures.
We're halfway through and I'm honestly having flashbacks. If you still have a scar, physical or emotional, from a dodgeball, a trapper-keeper, or a pair of too tight parachute pants, do me a favor and smack that like button. It's the 80s survivors salute. So, let's get moving. The final 5 rules. Rule number 5, learn to deal with teachers who weren't your friends. Forget the nurturing mentors you see in movies. Many teachers in the 80s were more like drill sergeants. They were cynical, they were sarcastic, and they were not there to be your buddy. The teacher's lounge was perpetually shrouded in a thick fog of cigarette smoke, and that attitude didn't always stay in the lounge. If you complained about being picked on, the response was likely to be a gruff, toughen up, buttercup, or, well, what did you do to provoke them? These were teachers who wouldn't think twice about asking a student to borrow a pocket knife to open a box, because some kids just carried them. They didn't coddle you, they didn't really care about your feelings. There was no Google for answers, no therapy dogs for comfort. There was just you, the teacher, and the terrifying realization that they probably disliked you as much as the principal did. Rule number 4, master the ancient art of low-tech communication. Before texting and social media, communication was an art form that took planning and courage. If you wanted to talk to someone during class, you had to pass a physical note, folded into an intricate piece of paper origami, and pray it didn't get intercepted by the teacher. If you needed to call home, you had to find a quarter and use the payphone, which was always located in the most high-traffic, vulnerable area of the school. Making plans with friends was a masterpiece of guesswork. You'd agree to meet at the mall at 7, and you just had to trust that everyone would show up. There were no OMW texts or running 5 minutes late updates. If someone was a no-show, you just stood there by the fountain questioning all your life choices. Rule number 3, develop an immunity to public humiliation. In the 80s, emotional damage was just another subject on the curriculum. Public humiliation wasn't a trauma to be processed. It was a weekly event to be endured. The fear of being called on to read aloud in English class was a universal terror. One stutter, one mispronounced word, and you could be the class punchline for weeks. Tripping in the hallway, your voice cracking during a presentation, getting a terrible haircut. These weren't just embarrassing moments. They were character-building disasters. You had 2 options. Learn to laugh at yourself before anyone else could, or let the shame consume you. There were no do-overs and no safe spaces to run to. You just had to take it, build up a thick skin, and hope it was someone else's turn next week. Rule number 2, don't expect a participation trophy. This one is simple. The whole idea of getting an award just for showing up wasn't really a thing. You either won the game or you lost. You passed the class or you failed it. And yes, you could absolutely fail an entire grade and be held back. Report card comments were brutally honest. There were no soft phrases like shows potential, but struggles with focus. It was more like does not apply himself and is failing. You didn't get extra credit just for trying. if your final answers were wrong. This wasn't meant to be cruel. It was just the way it was. It taught you accountability. You learned that results mattered, and if you didn't measure up, you were the only one who could fix it. And the number one rule for surviving high school in the 80s? Never, ever snitch. This was the absolute most sacred rule of them all. Snitches get stitches wasn't just a rhyme. It was a foundational principle of the social contract. You saw someone smoking in the bathroom? You saw nothing. Someone cheating on a test? Not your business. A friend skipping class? You hadn't seen them all day. It was a code of silence. You didn't have to like the person. You just had to respect the code. Breaking it meant social exile. It was the one rule that united jocks, nerds, and everyone in between. We were all in this chaotic, hair-sprayed jungle together, and you never, ever turned on your own. So there you have it. High school in the 80s was a trial by fire. It was a world of harsh lessons disguised as education, a place where resilience wasn't taught. It was forged in the fires of dodgeball and public embarrassment. We were the latchkey kid generation, raised on questionable cafeteria food and the wisdom of John Hughes movies. We survived without hashtags, trigger warnings, or anti-bullying campaigns. We did it with sarcasm, mixtapes, and an unspoken understanding that we were all just trying to make it out alive. And you know what? We wouldn't have it any other way. That chaos is our badge of honor. So, what did I miss? What was your number one rule for surviving high school in the 80s? Drop your own stories and survival tips in the comments below. I want to hear all of them. And if this trip down memory lane didn't scar you for life, hit that subscribe button for more trips back to a time when we were all just trying to make it to the final bell.